Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. My name is Sia Nejad, and I've got a great recap screen to show you. Let's see how we did. Ben on the 1s and 2s and 6s and 7s helping us out. Say hi to Ben in the chat. Buckets, 2-0. He's on fire. Mikey B, 2-0. He's on fire. David Bierman drops into the show, and he hits his, early fourth quarter. That one came in. And then Villanova minus 11.5 from Bruce Marshall. That comes in as well. Wait, is this 6-0? This is 6-0, not 5-0. We will take 6-0 all day. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but I think we just went undefeated on 6 picks. You love to see it. Jeff Stenberg, CLE fan, Richard Pierre, Joe, Ramo, Aaron Bailey, Farzad. Thanks for being in here. Hit the like button. Let's bring in the stars of the show. We're down prop stars this morning, but we do have Meg Shoup. We've got Mike McClure. We've got Larry Hartstein. Gentlemen, Larry, I'm going to start with you. We got a lot of Thursday night football to talk about, but we've got a lot of SportsLine picks. We got some college basketball from Mike and Meg. I know you have a pick for today and for Sunday's football slate. But Larry, have you joined the Splash Sports contest yet?
I have. My family has. My friends have. I'm encouraging everyone to get into it. I mean, they're giving away $1,000. It takes a couple minutes. You just pick 13 games against the spread. You identify your best bet, and you're good to go. Splashsports.com/early edge. Get in there. It's free money, free to enter, obviously. Make sure you get in there. A lot of people from last week, they're just kind of, just like anybody, kind of lazy about it. They don't re-enter, and then all of a sudden it's too late. So go ahead and do that right now. Splashsports.com/early edge, the NFL Week 12 Pick'em contest. There it is. There's that beautiful graphic. Mike McClure, I'm going to see you and Meg in about an hour for Fantasy Football Today DFS. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. And I see in the chat, is this the DFS show plus Larry? I would love to have Larry as a guest on the DFS show.
That's a great idea.
But no, look, I'm fired up, ready to go. Got a little college basketball season going on. Got a good Thursday night football game. I say good Thursday night football game. It's, less than a touchdown spread. Anytime there's football on the TV with less than a touchdown spread, you have to be interested. So fired up, ready to be here.
Yeah, Meg, that spread going from 6 to 5.5 in some places. So Houston getting a little bit of respect. I do want to give Jen a shout out because she reflects what everybody else is talking about. Can we just roll straight into the DFS show? It would be fun to have Larry or Proppy on that DFS show because every time we talked about a player, they could just talk about specifically the prop and we could just make it a dueling. We talk about props on that show as well, but I think that's actually a pretty fun idea. Meg, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I would love that idea. And I got to do this a few Thursdays ago where, I get to double dip with you and Mike, and then I get to see Larry. This is great. I can't wait to start this Thursday off right.
This is great. And Meg, speaking of starting things off, how about you start things off right now? Because I gave out a play on Woody Marks yesterday on his rushing yards, but I got to be honest, I was considering his rushing and receiving. We're going to get to your Sunday prop later on in the show, but talk to me about Woody Marks rushing and receiving.
Sure. Well, we know we like to attack the Bills' run defense, right? Bills' run defense gives up 5.4 yards per carry. So they are just kind of the auto play for the running back. And we do have 2 running backs in this game, but Woody Marks can be utilized as both a rush and receiver. That was actually kind of his calling card coming into the NFL. I thought he'd be more just that third down back for the Texans. Well, he has been getting about 82% of the backfield touches, or did so last week. But we saw the Bucs last week, 2 running backs put up a total of 202 all-purpose yards. I unfortunately was on the wrong side of both playing and betting Rachaad White. It was Sean Tucker who you wanted. But in this case, I think both running backs can get there. And I like approaching Woody Marks from the rush receiving perspective because he could get this all in rushing. He could get this all in receiving, but it's kind of protected by game script. I really can't tell you what the game script's going to be for the Texans, but this protects him in whatever game script it is. And, I do think he can have some explosive receiving plays if they get him more involved in that area too. But again, we want to attack the Bills' run defense. And so I like going Woody Marks over rush and receiving, 76.5 yards minus 115.
All right. If you have questions about this game, and I say this every Thursday, but maybe we have some new people in here, make sure you put your questions in the chat because we're all here to answer your Thursday night football questions, maybe other questions you have across sports. But specifically, we lean into Thursday night football. Liddy, Rojo, Gipper's picks are in here. Danny Brasco is in the chat. I'm sure he's signed up for the Splash Sports contest. Brasco, drop some knowledge because I know you're dialed in on Thursday night football as well. Larry, what's interesting, and Meg, we're going to get to your other pick for a Cincinnati Bengal. That's a little teaser. But Larry, as much as we like Woody Marks, there is another running back on this team that was the starter for a majority of the season. And I suppose on a short week could log a few more carries against this terrible Buffalo Bills rush defense. Talk to us about Nick Chubb.
Yeah, Woody Marks got 18 carries on Sunday, which, as Meg pointed out, might not be the way you want to go with him. More of a guy who can get outside and has a great burst. But Nick Chubb actually was more effective last week. Nick Chubb had 3 carries, and he broke 2 tackles, and he ran for 17 yards. Woody Marks had 18 carries. He did not break a single tackle. He is last in the NFL in forcing missed tackles. Now, I know he's got a ton of potential, and they want to force feed him. They want him to be the guy, but it's not happening right now. And I'm just trusting the coaching staff that they're going to look at what happened, and they're going to say the way to beat the Bills is to run the ball. Just gave up 200 yards. Cleve TA, one of the best analytics guys out there, points out the Bills have given up 5.4 yards per carry to a group of running backs who average 4.3 against everyone else. That's how bad they've been against the run. And I know that they're weakest up the middle. So to me, that means Nick Chubb, whose prop line is 5, 5.5, 6.5 in terms of carries, is going to get to 20 yards. I'm seeing this up to 22.5. That's as high as I would play it. Would not go higher than that. I mean, I prefer 21.5, and because every carry is so critical when we're in this situation where it looks like they've given over the backfield to Woody Marks. But I'm trusting the coaches to look at what happened, look at the way to beat the Bills, and give Nick Chubb 6 or 7 carries, and he can do this easily.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess with 6 or 7 carries, I mean, I'm not the biggest Nick Chubb fan, but I mean, between the tackles against this Bills defense, it totally makes sense. Mike, do you have an opinion on this running game in general, whether it's Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, or the run game? I mean, do you think Houston's going to be able to we're not going to see what happened with Tampa last week, obviously. This is a different offensive line. It's a different offense. But what's your expectations from the Houston Texans offense tonight?
They're not super high, to be honest with you. I think that while Buffalo hasn't been elite defensively, I still do believe it's a step up from playing Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars, particularly because they're divisional teams that, they've got a lot of data on. They've been able to scout them consistently. And I think it was a little easier to have a game plan in that spot. Now you're talking a little shorter week against Buffalo. So I'm not super optimistic on the side of the Texans. I think that they might be in situations where it's more obvious passing. Doesn't mean I don't like Chubb rushing there, though. I do think there could be that 3rd and 16 where you should be throwing that you hand the ball off and ultimately get there. But yeah, I'm not super optimistic on the Texans. I think that the market as a whole and just general public's being a little influenced by the result when these two teams played last.
That's completely fair in terms of potential overreaction. Larry, real quick administrative question from James Seitz, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but James asks, do we have to make a deposit to participate in the Splash Sports contest, even though the contest is free? And he says it brought him to a deposit screen. Can you confirm that there's no deposit required?
None required. You just X out of that. You don't have to do that. It's a totally free contest. Obviously, Splash Sports is a business, and they're trying to, build their business, but they're running this for us for free. They're giving away $1,000 every single week. No cash, no deposit required.
Yeah, I think that's more of a, hey, do you want to deposit? That's certainly not, we wouldn't promote this as a free contest if you had to deposit anything. I would refuse to read that read if it said free contest and you actually had to deposit something. So James, no worries there. There are some states I know that prohibit it. Most states allow Splash Sports, so it'll be free. It's very easy to sign up. James, thanks for trying, and I'm sure you're already signed up for that contest. Again, splashsports.com/early edge. Look for the Pro Football Pick'em Week 12 contest. All right. Let's go to, we got to get to our SportsLine picks, but I do want to mention a couple of things. You can get your stake back in cash if your first touchdown scores second instead. Bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. I did say I was going to say a couple of things. Well, the other thing that I was going to say is our very own Ben, who's probably going to join us on the show for first touchdown scores. He's got a first touchdown score. We don't have Proppy, so Ben is going to jump in and give out a first touchdown score. I trust everybody's going to want to follow that. SportsLine picks. Let's go to the NBA. We got the Memphis Grizzlies. Interesting. Money line -133. They're playing Sacramento tonight. Light the beam. I don't know if Big Cheesy is in the chat, but we're not lighting the beam tonight. Grizzlies, money line -133, says Matt Severance. 2 hockey picks here. One from Todd Furman, who is as sharp as they come. Columbus Blue Jackets money line plus 110, says Todd Furman. And speaking of sharp, Jeff Hockman and Matt Severance agree on the Montreal Canadiens money line minus 120. All right, we got a lot more to get to, including some college basketball, a lot of your questions. Don't forget, especially your Thursday night football questions in the chat. I've got my Woody Marks play, but I'm coming with another play tonight on Jaden Higgins. You're going to want to hear about that right after this message from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Liddy says the beam bulbs are dead in Sacktown. Perhaps that's correct. Speaking of basketball, Mike McClure, we've got college basketball like pretty much in full swing. And you like a first half under. That is standard. That is trademarked by Mike McClure. Mike McClure, what do you like?
Yeah, first half under. I do still like the full game under if you, for some reason, don't have access to it. But we're talking Texas Tech, Wake Forest here. Look, I like when we get to these early season matchups with teams that have played, basically no competition and then kind of heading into a more difficult test, particularly in the neutral site where you've got travel for both sides. That's what we've got here. I went under 76.5 in the first half, fading that 77th point. The idea of a 40 to 35 game is still cashing an under. That's super appealing to me in this spot. This is the Bahamas game. I think that this is a spot where Texas Tech plays with the pace that they want. When we look at tempo early, when we talk about this Texas Tech team, they're already ranking around 300th in college basketball in terms of pace of play. That is something that has been a staple of Texas Tech, really no matter who's been the head coach here. But this is a legitimate good basketball team here that's a 9.5 point favorite in the game. They should play with the tempo that they want in this one. When I look at Wake Forest, kind of middling in tempo, middling in offensive efficiency, middling in defensive efficiency. This is certainly a step up for them when it comes to the defensive intensity that Texas Tech will be able to play with. So I like a slower start here. Again, play the full game total under if you want, particularly if it's going above 160.5 right now. That's kind of currently where it's sitting. The thing that you worry about is just late tournament in tournament games like this or exhibition games like this is fouls late. So I like to avoid some of that foul game in these neutral site contests here. This is, again, the first time that they've really hit that defensive intensity from the other side. So we saw it last night in 3 higher profile college basketball games, all going under, including one that went to overtime and still went under. I like this one here, under 76.5 in the first half.
Speaking of first half, Mike McClure, we're going to go back to football. We know you like kind of first halves and unders and team totals and things of that nature. Joe says, Mike, is Texans over 9.5 first half points too low? Before you even answer that, I can tell everybody that one of my official plays was, and I was so close to making it, just gotten burned on this play recently, was the first quarter under 7.5 points at around minus 115 to minus 120. I actually really like that. I just, for whatever reason, didn't follow through on it. Mike, go ahead and answer that question though.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm going to pull up my numbers here on it. It certainly wasn't one that I had circled and highlighted that I wanted to play. I'm going to stay off of it here. I just lean under on the Texans in general. I'm not confident in the offense. Don't mind it. Just the fact that it's a touchdown and a field goal in that first half. But I really think that Buffalo's still going to be able to move the ball, but it's not going to be massive explosive plays. It's going to be killing that clock. So I'm leaning away from this one, but generally speaking, you're talking about a dome, a touchdown and a field goal is very doable, but not for me tonight.
Meg, any thoughts on points in this game, and whether it's one of these teams or the total? I don't see a lot of points. Both these teams play with a relatively slow pace, and I certainly respect the Texans defense, and not that I respect the Bills defense, but like it is the Texans offense at the end of the day. I just don't see a ton of points. I see a lot of conservative play here too, but then again, the total's only 43.5. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the total's only 43.5, but I'm with you. See, I have a ton of respect for this Texans defense, especially. And I'm not going to make an official play on the total, but I am not interested in any overs. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, I'm really not. Again, that's why I kind of like that first quarter under 7.5 and the first half under 21.5 is the number there. Larry, you had some commentary on the NHL play from Jeff Hockman, and then good news, Jay Long has a defensive prop for you. But let's talk about hockey first.
Okay, yeah, no, I want to talk about Todd Furman because I've been urging him to get some of his hockey picks. They're very coveted up on the site. This is a guy who used to work behind the desk for Caesars. Now he works professionally, as a bettor, but NHL, one of his big specialties. And he got out Columbus plus 110. It's minus 105 when I just bet it now.
Wow.
But he said he would play it to minus 117, or his true line is minus 117. So there's still some value right there.
Todd Furman, incredibly sharp. I wonder if we can get him on this show one morning, but he's all over CBS Sports HQ along with Mike and everybody you see on this screen. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, not to sell. We got to also mention the fact that Todd was a goalie. He played hockey. He's seen the game from that angle. But Todd Furman was a successful goalie in college. He played college hockey. He was a goalie.
I don't know about
I didn't know
successful, but he did play college hockey. Yes.
That's amazing. That's good stuff. All right, Jay Long says Cole Bishop over 6.5 tackles and assists at minus 110. Larry, any thoughts?
I haven't looked at that one. I've been looking at Al Shahir. I've been looking at Terrell Bernard. I like Derek Stingley over 2.5, but it's juiced too far. It's like minus 175. I would play it like, minus 140, but I can't find that. So I haven't pulled the trigger on any defense, but Cole Bishop has played great the last few weeks.
All right. Well, look, check this out. We've got more to talk about with respect to this game, but Joe and Katie Taylor. First of all, I love when I'm on the same page as Katie Taylor because she's super sharp. She stumbled into our golf show yesterday, and we said hi to her. But I just want to point out, I want to thank everybody for being a part of these shows, whether you listen to the podcast later or whether you're watching us live. I can't thank, and I think that I speak on behalf of everybody that's on these shows. Thank you for being in here and participating, hitting the like button, and sometimes reviewing the podcast, things of that nature. It really helps, but it just makes the show way more fun. But here's what I'm getting at. Joe and Katie Taylor both are talking about Jaden Higgins. Now, Katie says, I like Jaden Higgins over 27.5 receiving yards at minus 115. Joe says, I like him at 30.5. He's pointing to the number over at DK. That's at minus 110. Seems too low. Well, how about I split the difference? Because my other official pick is, in fact, Jaden Higgins over 28.5 receiving yards at minus 114. I mean, that's where I saw the best line. So if anybody has a 27.5 out there, go ahead and take it. But this guy is effectively the wide receiver too. He plays on the outside. Bills don't cover outside receivers very well. And what's cool about Jaden Higgins is when you went back like 4 or 5 weeks ago, you weren't sure who was going to emerge. Christian Kirk was injured. He's back now, but playing the slot and hasn't really had a huge role as of yet. But was it going to be Jalen Noel? Was it going to be, or Noel, I should say? Was it going to be Jaden Higgins? And it appears that it's Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins, 3 of the last 4 games, has had 7+ targets. Now, the game he didn't, he had 1 target. I think it was 1 catch on 1 target. And frankly, that was against Denver. And that Denver defense, much like the Texans, very, very good. But those 3 of the last 4 games, 2 of which were with Davis Mills, he's getting a lot of targets. He's the wide receiver too. And if we think this is going to be a negative game script or even a neutral game script, Jaden Higgins is going to have to be involved. I think this number is just a little too low. When you look at Davis Mills' prop in terms of his passing yards, it's in that 210 to 215 range. And it's not like that's all going to Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz, I don't think he's going to have a great game because the Bills are really good against the tight end. So if you're going to take out the middle of the field, you're going to take out guys like Dalton Schultz, it's guys on the outside like Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins that are going to have to step up in neutral and negative game scripts, which is likely where the Houston Texans find themselves. I think it's going to be a close game, which is part of the reason I like Woody Marks in this game and his rushing total, which I talked about yesterday. Because again, that's one of my picks as well. If you didn't join us yesterday, I have Woody Marks over 60.5 rushing yards. But I also like this play mainly because this is a very low total for a receiver that's just getting more and more work. So I like the call from Katie Taylor, and I think it was Joe. Jaden Higgins over 28.5 receiving yards. Let's go to Luffy Mingo. Who should I go with this? Larry, how do we feel about Davis Mills? This is a question for Buckets, Luffy. I'm sorry he's not on the show. Davis Mills for an interception, minus 118.
He's been good at protecting the ball so far, and one of those was a very negative game script. The Bills do have some playmakers in the secondary, like we talked about with Cole Bishop. So I'm not sure. I would probably lean against an INT for Davis Mills.
All right. Steve Folkerts wants us to know that he's on Buffalo -2.5 and the under 46.5 at +145. That's interesting. I might want to get that up to 4. Mike, in terms of key numbers, wouldn't you rather be on 47.5 there or 48.5? I know that's going to change the number, but isn't 47 a pretty key number here?
47 is a pretty key number. Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's a pretty key number in this spot.
Okay.
Trying to figure out what the just alt lines here is, because the total at 43.5. So you're just pulling at 3 point. It's definitely not a, I don't know what's going on here. Definitely not for me.
Yeah. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, I see some talk in the chat about the Bills pass catchers, and the rumors today are that Keon Coleman's going to be inactive again. I like Khalil Shakir in this game. I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but he wasn't on the injury report. His wife had a baby, and that's why he missed practice. But he was on the injury report last week, did nothing against Tampa. But when you look at Houston and how good Stingley is outside, basically allows nothing, the way to attack them is over the middle and with the slot. So I was hoping we would get Shakir at 3.5. It was 4.5 catches, so I haven't played it. But he's the guy I think is going to bounce back and have a big night, because who's left, in that receiving core when you talk about Shavers, Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir? That's pretty much it.
I agree. I agree on Shakir. Meg, do you have any takes on any of these pass catchers for the Buffalo Bills? Would it be Shakir? I mean, I do worry a little bit about, I don't know what the Bills are doing with their personnel groupings. A lot of times, even without Dalton Kincaid, they got a lot of tight ends on the field. Their packages are a little different, not necessarily wide receiver centric, but Khalil Shakir, even coming off a bad game, it seems like he would be the guy here.
I was just going to put my hand up and say I really like that call from Larry. You want to attack the Texans in the slot, so I do like the Shakir call. The other call I was thinking about, and it's kind of teasing my next pick, was James Cook receiving. He was non-existent as a receiver most of the season, and I've been asking myself, I'm sure a lot of fans are asking themselves, why? He is good in the can be very good in the receiving games. And the last 2 games, he's been much more involved as a receiver or catching the ball out of the backfield. So you wonder, since the Texans are tough to run on, do they get James Cook more involved in the receiving game? I think that's an interesting way. I don't know if I'll play it yet or not, but yes, Shakir and James Cook receiving lines would probably be the only 2 Bills pass, as far as receiving line overs that I'd be interested in.
Well, what a great transition. Meg, you're such a pro. Okay, 2 things. One, I agree with you on James Cook over receiving yards, but you have a prop for Sunday. So you've got the floor. Talk to me about Chase Brown.
So I'm bummed the Prop Stars isn't here, because Sia, I wanted to make my case for why he should consider a running back receiving over. And the reason I like this, Chase Brown, it's the line I'm looking at is over 24.5 -118. And quite honestly, I'm likely going to ladder this thing up. So here's my case. Samaje Perine, doubtful. The last 2 weeks that Perine has been out, we've seen Chase Brown's workload go up. And I mean, his target share, his routes run have essentially doubled. So in those 2 games, he's had 75 and 28 receiving yards in the last 2 games. Now we add, of course, Jamar Chase is out. So I feel like this is going to be a situation where we saw with Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco. Just the books can't bake this in enough, because he's going to have to act as a receiver. And I don't have the data on this, but I believe when Higgins missed some time last year, Chase Brown was more active as a receiver. So I feel like, similar to McCaffrey in San Francisco, he is just going to have to act as a receiver, because outside of T. Higgins, the other Bengals receivers are nothing to write home about, as we know. So I really love this over 24.5. I'm going to ladder it. The Patriots, that is another factor. Really tough to run on the Patriots, but they give up the most receptions to running backs and the 8th most receiving yards to running backs. So a lot of data is, kind of supporting this. And we also have one other fun fact. Joe Burrow was a full participant at practice yesterday. I cannot tell you sitting here on a Thursday morning if Joe Burrow is going to play Sunday, but nobody in Cincinnati is ruling it out. And obviously their backs are against the wall. So if Joe Burrow plays, it makes me like it even more because of the familiarity with Chase Brown. So I love this play all around. How did I do selling the case, Sia?
I thought you did great. I mean, I'm in, especially without, Jamar Chase. And we know Chase Brown's a good pass catching option as it is. That Joe Burrow news is so interesting because
Very.
Larry, didn't that just kind of shock everybody that he got a full practice in yesterday? I was like, wait, what? Like, I understand his window was going to be open. I didn't expect a full practice this early.
I bet Pats -7.5. The line was 8.5, going up to 9. I felt great about it, and that was a gut punch. I mean, now you can get it under a touchdown because he practiced fully, but we'll see what happens today. It's no guarantee yet that he's going to be back. I mean, the initial timeline was targeting the Thanksgiving game against the Ravens. I didn't think there was any chance he was going to be back this week.
I want to get to a couple more questions, and of course, I want to get to the first touchdown scores as well. Real quick though, FFT DFS, is Chase Brown going to be one of your plays this week, Meg Shoup?
Yes.
Okay.
I exactly. I've already filled out my Google Doc, and he absolutely is.
We got a cheat sheet. We got Mike's top 3 at each position, which again, you can not necessarily apply to props, but at least consider when it comes to the prop market. Make sure you're dialed into Fantasy Football Today DFS. It'll be in your feed in about 2 hours. Josh Allen rushing yards and rushing attempts is popular among the chat. Larry, any thoughts on that?
The Texans have been giving up a lot of rushing yards on the ground, so it does look good. But getting, I was looking at his yardage, and it was a little too high for me in the low 30s. But yes, they're very aggressive with those pass rushers. But they know coming into this game that that's what they need to stop. There's been a lot of talk in Houston, just reading the coverage about how the defense needs to keep those rush lanes, the integrity of the rush lanes or whatever the cliche is, but they can't just rush with wild abandon at Josh Allen. So I'm not playing it, but yes, they have been vulnerable there.
A lot of great comments in the chat. One I wanted to get to, but Mike, do you have a take on the Joe Burrow thing? Do you think he's playing on Sunday?
I do think he's going to play. I don't know if he's going to play the full game. We'll see how well it's going, but I do think it's the last opportunity there. It's a home game. They have the Bills and the Ravens and the Bills on deck, both away games after that. I generally tend to think they bring them back in a home game situation. So yeah, I think that it would be a situation where they bring them out there, game they try and win, that they essentially need to win out to get in. So, and once the next loss happens, then I think there's no reason. But yeah, I think he's itching to play. I think he wants to play, and I think that if he does, it would be at home in this kind of a situation.
One last question for you, Meg, because I don't know if you specifically addressed this with respect to James Cook. Do we pull the trigger on Cook 15 plus receiving yards at -119 is the question.
I'm getting more and more interested. So I think I may, and just because of what they've done the last 2 weeks. And again, it's so hard to run on the Texans. I am interested in this. I haven't bet it yet.
Another interesting question. I promise we'll get to first touchdowns in a second. Eric David. So this plays into my Jaden Higgins prop a little bit. Eric David asks Larry, and M squared, but Larry, I'll go to you. Can the Bills pass rush get to Mills? I think, okay, we know that offensive line is pretty terrible, but this Bills pass rush has backtracked quite a bit lately. I mean, Ed Oliver's injured, of course. What are your thoughts there? Because I feel like this could be a Mills day where he's got a little bit more time than normal.
Yeah, they're not as dominant as they were early, but the Texans O-line is nothing to write home about. Yeah. I mean, I think he probably gets sacked a couple of times, but I haven't looked at Bosa's prop yet.
All right, fair enough. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, just while we're quickly talking about the Bengals situation, the one thing that I could recommend at this point, I don't recommend betting a lot of teasers. But now that you're catching New England 6.5, if you did have a dance partner that you really liked there, I think that it would be an interesting time to tease New England, where you're grabbing them on the money line and not, laying 2.5 in case if he does play. If he doesn't play, this thing's going right back to 8.5, in my opinion. So rather than speculating and still laying 6.5, still looking at a touchdown, if you had someone that you wanted to pair them with, whether it be the Rams at 6.5, with there's several options out there, in my opinion. Now would be a decent time to at least grab some exposure to New England in a teaser at 6.5.
Does anybody have an opinion on the most public play of all time that I also like? I actually don't know that it's public, but I'm sure it is. The Lions -10.5 at home against the Giants in a bounce back spot. I just feel like it's going to go very poorly. Go ahead, Meg.
I'm going to go Lions team total. I did it a couple weeks ago against our Washington Commanders, and I laddered that, and it worked beautifully.
How dare you?
Because the nice thing about Dan Campbell is he doesn't take the foot off the gas, right? So that is my favorite part of taking a Lions team total, especially in these situations where they're coming off a bad loss and they're playing at home and they're not going to let up. So I like Lions team total, and I don't even know it. I just know whatever the team total is, I'm betting the over, and then I'm likely going to ladder it. I did that with a couple of weeks ago, and that was so fun because it's like, I know we're going to be in pain as Washington fans, so let's enjoy making money.
Jamison Williams is going to go off, says Zach Kasanke. Probably true. Larry, go ahead.
Well, Jackson Dart is on track to return, but we know that QBs in their first games back from concussions have not been as effective, and especially with Jackson Dart, because that's the whole narrative around him, is that they can't let him run around like he's been doing, and that's been such a huge part of their offense. So I do wonder if his effectiveness will be a little bit down. The Lions are 13-0 against the spread coming off a loss. It's happened 3 times this year. They've come out the next week. Sometimes some good matchups like the Commanders, but they have put it on these teams. The game after, they put 50 on the Bears coming off a loss, put 44 on the Commanders. I can't remember. The other one was 24-9 over Tampa. Those are the 3 games coming off a loss. So yeah, I would look for a 10 though. There's some 10s out there.
Meg, Darian Mercurio says you love ladders, and he loves that you love ladders, which is interesting because Ben also put out that last time you had a ladder play on this show was on Derrick Henry, and he rushed for a bazillion yards. So we love ladders. And again, you can catch Meg Shoup's analysis with Mike McClure and myself on Fantasy Football Today DFS. Please make sure you're subscribed to that podcast. If you want to watch it live with all the cool graphics that we introduce, that is on the Fantasy Football Today YouTube channel. You'll see it in about 2 hours. Mike, any thoughts on that 10.5, or should we move on to first touchdowns?
Like Meg, I would lean towards the team total, but yeah, I ultimately do think they cover it.
All right, let's get to the first touchdowns. I mean, there's a lot of comments in the chat, but let's get to first touchdown scores so we don't go too long. I'm sticking with Woody Marks at plus 750. I mean, this is a guy I'm backing in the rushing yards department. Again, it's the Bills defense. I think the Houston Texans are really, especially early, are going to play pretty conservatively and lean on their running game, see where that gets them. So I know it's not a super fun number at plus 750, but Larry, you've got a fun number at plus 1800.
Well, last Monday I went kind of off the board with Jack Besh at 100-1, but I will say he got a 19-yard catch. He was out there involved, but this time I'm going a little more realistic with Dawson Knox. So we know Dalton Kincaid is out, and what I like about this, and we know the Bills are down, several pass receiving weapons, but Jalen Petra, the safety for the Texans, is out. And last week, you saw the Titans go off for 80-plus yards from the tight end position. So I think Dawson Knox has a good chance down there at a really nice price.
All right, Mike, talk to me about Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, I like Dawson Knox a lot. Larry got there first on that. Still like him. But the other option for me is Khalil Shakir. I think it's Knox and Shakir are going to be the weapons for Josh Allen. The reason I like both of them, though, at 14-1, 18-1, is the fact that I think Buffalo is extremely likely to score the first touchdown in this game, more so than the odds really kind of indicate here. Mm-hmm. And just looking at the weapons, I get that Josh Allen rushing is a big threat, right? It is the clear chalk. It is the most likely outcome, but I think it's influencing the rest of the team just a little too much in this particular matchup when you look at the way the Texans defend. So I like Shakir here, 14-1. I think the Bills definitely score the first touchdown, though.
There's a lot of Tyrell Shavers talk in the chat in terms of his receiving yards over, which is in that mid-20s range, which is a little higher than I would have thought it would have been, but also in the first touchdown market, which appears to be in the 22 to 25-1 range. So I know Brasco is on that, but there's a lot of Rojo is on that. A lot of people in the chat are on that. Meg, you're on Nico Collins. That makes sense.
Yeah, Nico Collins, the good thing about Davis Mills, he understands the assignment. Get the ball to Nico Collins. I believe 28% target share the last few weeks. So I just think I'm going to go with the alpha receiver who is getting the insane target share and, see if the Texans score, see if he is the one to get in.
And finally, Ben, if you can pop on the show. Now, I kind of mentioned that Dalton Schultz probably isn't going to get a lot of work. And I think it's because the Bills just cover the tight end, middle of the field well. However, there's no question that a safety blanket for Davis Mills is one Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, he's seen an increase in targets over his last 3 games and an increase in receptions with that. He's had 5 red zone targets this season with a touchdown. So, 18-1, I don't hate the number. I hope Houston just starts this game out hot and, they come in short week. Maybe they're just playing on instinct and they go down the field, march down, and they find Dalton Schultz for that first touchdown, increased targets. Maybe they get him some shots in the red zone.
In the name of Donald Parham, Eric David says, Counselor, got to find a way to weave in Donald Parham, a.k.a. the GOAT, into the show. Of course, we used to take Donald Parham as a first touchdown scorer. I feel like Tyrell Shavers is the Donald Parham of tonight's game. So I'm just telling everybody that I'm going to just, I only sprinkle these, but I'm going to sprinkle on Woody Marks and I'm going to sprinkle on Tyrell Shavers just because I feel like he's the Donald Parham of this game. All right. Hand up if anybody has anything to go over before I bring up the recap screen, but I think we're done here. Yeah. Let's take a look at the recap screen before we get everybody out of here. Woody Marks over 60.5 rushing yards, -111. That's my pick from yesterday. Jaden Higgins is my pick for today, and it's over 28.5 receiving yards at -114. Larry Hartstein, Nick Chubb over 19.5 rushing yards at -118. We go to college basketball with Mike McClure. Texas Tech, Wake Forest, first half under 76.5, -120. And then we got a pick for tonight from Meg Shoup, but also a pick for Sunday. Don't forget, we got our prop show tomorrow at 1 o'clock, by the way, everybody. Woody Marks over 76.5 rushing and receiving from Meg Shoup, -115. And then on Sunday, Chase Brown over 24.5 receiving yards, -118. Let's go to our SportsLine picks. We got a few of them here. Memphis Grizzlies, money line, -133 from Matt Severance. And then Todd Furman enters the chat. Columbus Blue Jackets money line +110. That's from Todd. And then Jeff Hockman and Matt Severance both agree they like Montreal Canadiens money line -120. First touchdown scores. Ben gets in the mix with Dalton Schultz at 18-1. Dawson Knox also 18-1. That one's from Larry. Khalil Shakir at 14-1 from Mike McClure. Nico Collins at 9-1 from Meg. And I've got Woody Marks at 7.5-1 to be your first touchdown scorer. Richard Pierre, excellent show. He says, buena suerte. Buena suerte means good luck, right, everybody? Good luck, everybody. Have a great day. Look out for fantasy football today, DFS. I'm sure we'll be in the SportsLine Discord, pumping some information out, not just us, but so many of the people you always see on SportsLine, including all of you in the chat. Make sure if you're a SportsLine member that you're in that SportsLine Discord, especially on nights like this. Do not forget to join the Splash Sports contest. It's splashsports.com/early edge. Could not be easier to enter this free contest, and there's real money on the line, $1,000 to be exact. Larry, thank you. Meg, thank you. Mike, thank you. Meg and Mike, I'll see you in literally about 15 minutes. Yep. Larry, I'll see you very soon, and Ben, I'll see you very soon as well. Hope to see all of you tomorrow on BPE Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, we rest our case.